Good evening. A fourth grade student of the Windward Road Primary and Junior High School in Kingston was rushed to hospital after falling from a building at the school compound on Wednesday. The circumstances surrounding the incident are unclear at the moment. However, information reaching Mello TV News is that the boy fell from the second floor of Block C on the campus during lunch break. The injured boy was taken to hospital where his condition is not presently known. 4 suspects were arrested after a car robbery in Portmore St. Catherine early today are from a criminal network operating in the St. Andrews South Police Division. According to police investigators, the 3 men and a woman are among other gang members who are being investigated for numerous charges. The police said the St. Andrews South police team did an excellent job in addressing the matter and being very alert and professional in their conduct, and that a joint investigative effort will be taking place between the St. Andrews South and St. Catherine South police divisions regarding this morning's incident. It was reported at about 7 a.m. a police woman and her son were in her Honda Motor Fit car in Portmore St. Catherine when armed robbers stopped the policewoman and demanded that she and her son exit the vehicle. An alarm was raised and the police intercepted the vehicle on Mandela Highway. The driver of the stolen car attempted to evade the police but crashed into a railing in the vicinity of the New Haven community. That car and its occupants, as well as a pilot vehicle and its occupants, were all taken into police custody. And we will bring you more on this story in subsequent newscasts. A security guard was rushed to the Cornwall Regional Hospital in critical condition following his involvement in a motor vehicle accident along the Point Hill Main Road in Hanover earlier today. Reports are that shortly after 1 p.m., the security guard was traveling on a motorcycle from the direction of Montego Bay towards Hopewell in Hanover. On reaching the Point Hill corner, which is known as Hanover Black Spot, the motorcyclist allegedly drifted to his right and collided with the right front wheel of a Toyota motor car which was traveling in the opposite direction. The security guard sustained severe head injuries and body injuries and was transported by ambulance to the Cornwall Regional Hospital where he was treated and admitted in critical condition. The crash also resulted in a major traffic pileup for miles, but it was later cleared. Adamant that the government did not evict anyone from the structures it tore down at Greater Bernard Lodge in St. Catherine last Thursday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness firmly stated that a comprehensive investigation will be undertaken to crack down on the illegal sale of lands in areas across the island. Addressing the House of Representatives yesterday, Mr. Holness outlined the sequence of events leading to the demolition of 10 unfinished structures adjacent to the Clifton settlement in the Greater Bernard Lodge development area, where the notorious Klansman gang is alleged to have been establishing control in a land sale racket.
One structure, Madam Speaker, one lady complained to me that she was putting up an 8-bedroom house. And I found it quite, I was, quite impressed by her ambition and her entrepreneurial spirit to build her house. It is something that I always admire, but it has to be done in the right way. Madam Speaker, so action was taken. Action was taken, Madam Speaker, to remove 10 structures from the agricultural land. In my speech to Parliament, my statement to Parliament last week, I was clear on that we will remove structures on the agricultural land which were incomplete and unoccupied. 10 structures were removed. One structure remains. That structure remains because, Madam Speaker, it had a decking. It had walls, and we needed to ascertain whether or not there was an occupant before we acted. To this point, we are not yet certain as to whether or not there is an occupant, and later on I will address how we will treat with that. The the houses, complete and incomplete structures in the reserved areas were not touched. That to be absolutely clear. They were not touched. As I said in my presentation last week, those persons must come forward to us, and I will address how we will treat with that. Madam Speaker, so all of this basically happened, this is in the agricultural land, in 2022. Starting out at about January 2022 to present, this is what you have. This is how rapid the pace of construction has been. And of course, in the reserved area, that started to advance rapidly in 2020. So in this
The Prime Minister explained that community meetings with residents and notices were posted from as far back as March 2022 for illegal operation of the land to stop.
Now, Madam Speaker, the SCJ indicated that during the first quarter of 2022, the Member of Parliament for St. Catherine Southern advised that there was illegal construction taking place in the area adjoining Clifton. And I want to repeat, there was illegal construction taking place in an area adjoining Clifton, not in Clifton. Clifton is a legitimate community. What we're talking about are lands that were reserved and agricultural lands. Totally different business. If you notice that from 2006 when we started to take the pictures coming all the way up, the boundaries of Clifton was well respected. Nobody went outside of the boundary. They filled out within the defined boundaries of the community. This is a new and recent development. As a result, a team from the Sugar Company of Jamaica was sent out and evidence of construction was seen, and therefore demolition notices were posted on March 1, 2022, as well as several no trespassing signs. Now, Madam Speaker, I am hearing it circulated that nobody was given notice. Nobody was communicated with. Why you never just come and talk to us? Now, Madam Speaker, I made sure to go and talk with the people. Because as leader of the country, I can't afraid of my own people. And you don't have to talk to me through the media. Tell me how you feel.
He pointed out that the JCF and the military were there to ensure the citizens and staff who were there were protected.
Neither the JCF or the JDF was involved in the removal of illegal structures. Their job was to give cover and security, given the fact of the threat of gang activity in the area, and to offer protection to persons who may be at risk. I don't want the JCF or the JDF to be drawn into these very sensitive political issues. And I want to commend the police officers who and the military who conducted themselves exemplary to ensure that the citizens of Clifton were protected, the persons who were doing their duties were protected, the staff of the SCJ were protected, and all public officials who were in any way associated were protected. That point I will pick up further on about these politically sensitive issues later on in the presentation. But the presentation here on the screen that is being projected, you can clearly see, Madam Speaker, that these are not small structures.
Mr. Holness said there had been efforts of gang-related activities in area that cannot be allowed and must be addressed.
Neither the JCF or the JDF was involved in the removal of illegal structures. Their job was to give cover and security, given the fact of the threat of gang activity in the area and to offer protection to persons who may be at risk. I don't want the JCF or the JDF to be drawn into these very sensitive political issues. And I want to commend the police officers and the military who conducted themselves exemplary to ensure that the citizens of Clifton were protected, the persons who were doing their duties were protected, the staff of the STJ were protected, and all public officials who were in any way associated were protected. That point I will pick up further on about these politically sensitive issues later on in the presentation. But the presentation here on the screen that is being projected, you can clearly see, Madam Speaker, that these are not small structures.
In the meantime, Prime Minister Andrew Holness, during today's handover ceremony by the National Housing Trust in Rossneath, St. Catherine, says on a weekly basis houses have been built and handed over under his administration.
On a weekly basis, houses are being built and handed over. On a weekly basis. And we are going to expand that rapidly. So, this dream of owning your own home is being recognized today for 30 contributors to the National Housing Trust in the Roseneath Park development. The Roseneath Park development is part of the Guaranteed Purchase Program. We call it the GPP program. And in this program, just a quick overview, the NHT purchases homes from the private contractors and then makes those homes available. The purchase is, however, at a guaranteed price before construction begins. In this development, the National Housing Trust is acquiring 140 detached two-bedroom units and 70 of those units are going to be made available this morning. So what will happen is that the NHT will purchase, as I've said before, 140 detached two-bedroom units, but 70 are ready or will be ready in phase one. And 30 are now being handed over.
He further outlined the provisions under this new development.
The project will provide paved roads with curbs, street names, and I believe traffic signs and stormwater drains, a water distribution network, a chain link perimeter fence, a central sewage collection treatment system, and an electrical distribution infrastructure with street lights. So this is a complete community with infrastructure. My friend with the orange here, though she probably would have built her home, she would not have had access to all these amenities to truly create a home out of the house that she would have built. And probably would not have it for years. Land within the development has been earmarked for green spaces, recreational and commercial activities, a school, and a church.
A part of the persons that received housing is a police officer who served with distinction. In his remarks, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang says Constable Owen Graham is well deserving of this house given his years of service to the nation.
There'll be a home handed over to Constable Owen Graham, police officer since 2018, who joined the force and had a serious accident and has been physically impaired since. Had trauma in his family as well, and for that reason, and they said became severely physically impaired. And the Housing Trust, on the instruction of the Prime Minister, after the request was made from the Commissioner's office, I think Mr. Wilson, our Superintendent Wilson, who has been a leader of the Federation for many years and now operates from the Commissioner's office in charge of police welfare. But this is more than a welfare grant, in that Constable Graham served with distinction. He was injured while at work in a service vehicle accident, and they said had further trauma in his family. Hard-working, honest young man who is committed to good order and public safety, and faced with a severe challenge in not only a comfortable home, but one that could accommodate him given his physical impairment.
Member of Parliament for South Western St. Catherine, Edward Warmington, had strong words for the NHT.
The disrespect, the arrogance that is displayed or extended to me and this constituency by the person who runs the Housing Trust, Donald Moore, or the person who appears to own it, the disdain that he has, the utter disdain for elected representative. I cannot continue with this presentation but to come off script. Refuse to speak to me and the constituency about Colby Castle. I want to make it clear, and Prime Minister, again, forgive me and understand the hurt that I feel. For representative, the only person in this country that garners more than 11,000 votes in the last election during pandemic with a 5,000 majority. The Housing Trust showed that disregard and disrespect to me and this constituency. And let me make it quite clear. The Housing Trust will not have an entrance to Colby Castle through the Bodles Agricultural Station. You will not enter through the Banana Research Station. You will not enter through Northern Colby Castle to allow the student going to that school to be raped and attacked by people in those dark corners. You will use the original entrance. You will have to rebuild that bridge to take you into the development. You will have to commit to the section of the land that was given to, left there by BRC developers, developed before you guys got there.
The National Land Agency has distributed a total of 6,256 certificates of title under its systematic land registration program since the NLA launched its distribution activities in February 2022. The systematic land registration program commenced adjudicating rights and interests in systematic adjudication areas in January 2021. The program aims to assist persons who have been in open, undisturbed and undisputed possession of land for 12 years or more. Yesterday, the agency hosted a title distribution activity in Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth, where over 1,300 certificates of title were distributed to residents of Barton's Wharf, Burn Savannah, Essex Valley, Houghton, Lacovia, Lititz, and several other communities in St. Catherine. Yesterday's distribution activity follows similar land titling distribution exercises that have been held early this year in St. Elizabeth and St. Catherine. Minister without portfolio in the Office of the Prime Minister, Floyd Green, in giving an update on the National Identification System, says the government is on track to roll out the system by the end of this year.
So we are on track to roll out our National Identification System by year end. One of the things that we decided to do was to utilize already existing government resources to have a sort of win-win scenario regarding our enrollment centers for a national identification system. So instead of building new enrollment centers, we're partnering with Jamaica Post and Telecoms, our post offices, again, very well located throughout Jamaica, but now underutilized because the world has shifted. from actual mail to electronic mail. And as such, our post offices are in need, one, of upgrade, and also can serve this purpose of enrollment centers.
Mr. Green outlined the advancements that have been made to streamline the process.
Our first enrollment center should be handed over this week. It has been completed. It's at the Central Sorting Office in Kingston. And again, coming from the partnership, the post office at the Central Sorting Office now has a brand new customer service hall, which we will launch tomorrow, and now has access to high-speed internet, and we're working to help them to automate a number of their services. And this will be the model. So already we've tendered and procured contractors to work on 4 additional post office through Kingston and St. Andrew, which will form a part of our initial rollout. I have indicated that our initial rollout will be by way of a pilot, and we will start the pilot, as I said, towards the end of this year.
Mr. Green further gave an update on the regulations that are being put in place to assist in having the pilot of the system up and running.
Things that are necessary for us to get our pilot up and running are some of the legal framework. So we have completed our regulations, which we have sent to the AG's chambers, and we have gotten a response. And now we're in the process of finalizing those regulations based on the advice from the Attorney General's chambers. We will send that back to the AG's chambers. Then we will publish the regulations. I have committed to share the regulations publicly before we table them in the House, and we will ask people to give some feedback. I will advise that there are already draft regulations on our website at nidsfax.com. So those who are interested and want to be early can already look at those draft regulations and give some feedback.
And you also outlined the pre-enrollment software and enrollment process and how the government is engaging the banks in this process.
The enrollment process will involve people being able to stay in the comfort of their homes and to put in a lot of their information and make an appointment to go to the enrollment site. And we expect that pre-enrollment software will be completed by the end of this month to early next month. I know a lot of people have been wondering, are we really moving forward with our engagement with our banks? We do see a tremendous part of the National Identification System rollout to make life easier, especially in relation to how we interact with our financial services sector. You will recall that we did sign a memorandum of understanding with the Jamaica Bankers Association, and all 10 major banks are on board. We have moved forward since that. So we've now held 3 workshops with all our banks. We've looked at the legal framework around the National Identification System. We've looked at the verification process, and the most recent workshop looked at the security features of the National Identification Card. So now our banks are fully apprised with what to look for in relation to security when we roll out our National Identification Card.
And those are the stories making the news this evening. I'm Nicole Hales. Thanks for watching.